J.R. McIntyre. Thank you for everybody tuning in, old followers, new followers, motivators. Mount up. Thank you, Los Angeles Tribune, for giving me just the platform to just promote my positivity podcast and everything I got going on. Thank you to the Riverside platform. Thank you to all my sponsors. And thank you for my guest that's coming on today, guys. We always talk about where do the motivators go get motivated, right? Well, we bring them here at the motivators table. And today we got a huge guest, huge guest. We got Mr. Pete Proctor. How you doing, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to be here. I appreciate that intro. I hope I can live up to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We want to make sure that we give you your flowers and bring you on and do it properly. Yes, we're doing this virtually, but at the end of the day, I'm on a mission to touch 100 people this year on my podcast platform, and I'm trying to touch the people that are inspiring me. And definitely, I saw your page and everything that you got going on LinkedIn. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about who you are and where you come from.
Well, I'm one of these people that really I do this to bless someone's life. I was in operations for 30 years and found myself on the tail end of that, really doing more staffing than anything, and helping people find success and moving them from one job to another where they're going to find more success and grow their future. And I found, as much passion as I've got for being of service to people in the hospitality industry, I found I could touch more lives literally doing this and getting the right people in the right jobs as they continue to grow and become more successful.
I love that. I love that. Where are you from exactly?
I'm from the Houston, Texas area. I was raised in a little town of El Campo, about an hour south of Houston, halfway to Victoria, and town of 12,000 people.
Wow.
And I went to work in the restaurant industry, kind of out of need when I was in college. But I found, that there is, occasionally you find something you really love and you never work a day in your life until you look up and you might be working a few more hours than you really want to.
Yeah.
But it's just become normal. And somewhere along the way, I just found my path into the recruiting side of things, and I think it's been very impactful for me as well as the people I work with.
Wow, I love that for you. I love the fact that you know what I'm saying, you own where you come from and you understand, and a lot of people, they don't, people they're doing things that they don't even want to be doing just to make way. And it seems like that you know exactly who you are. So we want to touch on a couple of key points before we move forward. How was you as a child?
I was a second of four, and I feel like I was a fairly quiet child until I found something that I really was passionate about. And then somebody better have a hand on that collar because I am gone with whatever that thing is. And, sometimes you're asking forgiveness instead of permission, but, I wasn't too far out of line.
Right, right. I love that. I love that. I love that quote too. Sometimes you gotta ask just, what I'm saying, forgiveness. And then just jump off the porch. I was that kid that I go get into something and then I apologize later. But I needed to figure it out. My hands need to touch it so I can learn. I was that type of learner, you know what I'm saying? So you
Oh,
grew
yeah.
up in Houston, Texas. How was the climate going to school?
Well, the climate, well, I went to school in the little town of El Campo. It was good. We had a lot of great teachers around us. You had a lot of good educators that were in early on in those small towns. They move up grade levels with you, which is really cool because they get to know you and they really know how to inspire you. But as you get a little older, then those classes get broke up and those teachers. I don't know exactly what happens to them, but we ended up with new teachers after that. And it was kind of cool to see them out in the community after you graduated, and they'd check in on you and see how you were doing. And I think that was a pretty neat aspect. I don't know that I would have had that if had I grown up in a Houston, in Houston with a bigger population.
I love that. Houston has a huge population, but you was on the outskirts, and so you probably it was one of them small towns where y'all family knew each other, right?
Oh, there wasn't much. I got a traffic ticket. My dad knew about it before I got home. Put it to you that way. That's how small the town was.
Wow, look at and the village raised you. You know what I'm saying? Like so,
Yep.
it's like your mother, your dad, they grew up there. Just like my dad and my mom was they grew up in Long Beach, California, but my mother she came from she's from Jamaica. My dad's from Mississippi, but knowing they're raising in Long Beach, the families know each other. We know of each other's family, and hey, that's Joel's kid. You better not be doing that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell your dad. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So.
Yeah, there were people I worked with later in life in that little town. Nellie Mae Moses was one of them. She was an angel. She had no problem calling out the nonsense when it was happening.
Right.
Uh, that you shouldn't be out doing that. And it was good to have people around you that knew you years before and would see you as an adult and be like, "You're a little off track there, young man."
Yeah, you better not be doing that right there. So yeah, I love that. You know what I'm saying? But it taught you who you are and the character. You know, how was you as a child in high school?
I where I applied myself, I had an extreme, but there were moments that I wasn't studying, and those grades reflected it like that. And I look back at that and realize that you know had Dad popped me in the back of the head just a little bit harder, and been a little bit more direct about that, I probably would have been a much better student. But I feel like I would dig into a subject based on the teacher. To be honest with you, if they engage with us, it was a dig in moment, and I feel like there were moments that there was just not that much engagement from certain instructors, and it was like I'm not giving it back to you. So I feel like I really let myself down, and I could have learned a lot more.
Right, right. I love that. You know what I'm saying? That, you understand that you let yourself down more, and it just probably wasn't timing. A lot of us, we don't learn about the accurate timing until we get older, until we understand and we get challenged of things like that and figure out that, hey, what am I supposed to really be doing in life? What goes on when I do this and what goes on when I do that? You know what I'm saying? So can you talk about your experience in education?
My education has been intermittent. So I went to college initially right out of high school, then I went back a few years ago, again to pick up a different degree, and that's something that, man, once when I went back as an adult and went after a process technology degree, I devoured the textbooks, and I was prepared to teach the class. And in fact, in one situation, um, we had a group of individuals that came out of the oil field industry that really probably knew more about what we were about to go do than we did, than the instructor may have. Kind of a touch and go line there, but they just weren't participating in class well. And I kind of called them out on that and let them know that, hey, the rest of us are here alone. You need to either get with the program, or maybe you don't need to be here. Maybe it's the wrong class for you.
Right.
But it was a situation where the instructor and I had a lot of good conversations across the class where people weren't asking questions, and I started throwing things in that clearly I knew the answer to. But you do those things to help bring the team along because you can't all graduate if you're not all there.
Right, exactly. And I like the way you broke that down, you know what I'm saying? And just understanding that element of, hey, how do we break this down? How do you understand education? And
Hmm.
I didn't start getting my education until I retired out the military and tried to understand, okay, how would this work for me and what kind of doors will it open, right? And I first started getting my associates and bachelor's in sports medicine just to get out the house because I was struggling with my mental health and PTSD and TBI and stuff like that. And I wasn't too interested into sports medicine, but I was trying to just see where can I take this and how can I help myself. And then it branched out to me understanding, getting certifications, and now I graduated with my master's in 2023, and I graduated with my doctorate at the end of this year. So God has been tremendously good to me, just to make me sit me down and say, you know what, I think you need to go into this and understand this too, and bring this type of information back. I want to talk about how Pete Proctor's, who are you at your core though?
I am, I'm first a Christian. Jesus Christ is our Savior and Lord. And if you can't take that and springboard from it into what you're doing, I don't know how you're going to be successful. And for me, that's the key to what I do.
Right,
If I'm not a blessing to your life, I'm going to tell you right up front my goal is to bless your life. Either this works well within my business model for recruiting and placement, or we got connected. Christ put you in front of me for purpose. At the very least, we're going to do a resume review. We're going to do a screening call. We're going to do a mock interview. And you're going to leave here with a set of notes that's going to prepare you moving forward. You're going to have a better structured resume. You're going to have a better opportunity in front of you. You're going to be better prepared when you get into those phone calls. And we're also going to help you do a targeted job search. So you're not just taking one job that's got poor boundaries towards you, and honestly, you've got some poor boundaries toward it. We're going to make you a better architect of those opportunities and really help you learn to research your companies that you're wanting to go to work for and figure out how do you not jump from one frying pan into the next frying pan and find yourself in a position where you can advance a career. Where's a company that you can that really can afford to grow you.
Right.
Because most people just go to work where they can get paid and make a bill for their household, and there's nothing wrong with that. But how do you scale that from an employee perspective? You've got to find the right company that's growing, that's got that opportunity, that's big enough for you to grow with them. And it may mean that you take a small step back to get yourself proven to find your path back up with them. Um, and that's where I like to take candidates and really help them understand how they can grow their future.
Right. I love that. Can we break that down a little bit more for my audience and
Sure.
explain that to them? Because I love what you do, but I need them to understand to, hey, this is what it is. So you guys take notes, get your highlighters and your pens ready.
Well, when it comes to people's resumes, honestly, they have no idea how to write them, and I guess that's great because they're hard workers and they're not somebody out there trying to write a resume that's going to get a lot of attention. But you've
Right.
got to look at the jobs you want, pull down 4 or 5 of them, and look at the similarities between them, and then look at where you're qualified to do that. You also need to look at where you're not qualified. Do you need to stay in the job you're in and learn some things to be the person or get the job you want to have? And there's definitely moments where I've had great candidates that I could have placed and made money on, from a commission standpoint. But for them to get the job they want, let's pause this for 6 months. Let you
Right.
get these experiences. Go to your leaders and go, how can I learn more about this and learn more about that and get my hands in this? Because here's 3 key areas where the company you want to work for needs these skills and you're missing them. So let's
Right.
get them so you can actually not just get through the interview, but actually do well in the job and really help them to find that path. Now, the other aspect of this is finding out who do you want to work for? Who's growing people? Let's start looking on LinkedIn and networking and looking at people that have been in their job 8, 9, 10, 15 years. These are companies where they have grown. Look at where they started, look at where they are. Reach out, connect, go, hey, I want to work for your company. Can you tell me about your journey? Can you be a mentor for me? People will fawn all over themselves to get an opportunity to help somebody like that. You'd be surprised who you could send that to a CEO, and you might find a new best friend that you never thought you could have. But you've got to ask those questions. You got to seek that out. And the next thing you know, they may look at you and go, you're not, this isn't the right company for you. I got a friend that owns a company that your skills will work at now, and you can grow with them. And you never know where it's going to take you, but you've got to be open to that conversation. So let's do the interview. Let's get your resume rebuilt. Let's look at who you want to work for, and then let's build you. And then from there, we can look at where you're going to go. And a lot of people they want a 6-figure income. Well, bless your heart, everybody does. And money's great, but a lousy life. I had a job at 140,000 a year. It was the worst quality of life I ever experienced. I was working
Ooh.
90 hours a week. I'll pass on it all day. Have a great life. This is not what I want to do. Um, but that's where people. I made the same mistake. I can do it for the money. You really
Right.
can't. And if you do, what are you selling off? Your family time? That you can't replace that. As hard as it may be to swallow when it's in front of you, you can't replace it. I can attest to that. But getting that skill set, figuring out what you do and don't have, and then building yourself and then going in for those opportunities, that's where you're going to find success. And figuring out which companies are blowing through people. There's no tenure here, there's no tenure here, but they're hiring a lot of people. So if you just need an experience and you're not working, just know this is a 9-month opportunity or a 12-month opportunity. It's not going to be a 5 or 10 year opportunity. And that's what you've got to be able to identify early on. And that's where I feel like I really help people to better understand what they're looking at. And sometimes I've talked people into being a better architect of their own environment, and they stay and they do well. And I'm very glad I got the opportunity to connect with them.
I love that. I love the fact that you help them and you coach them into that situation and be there. And guess what? You are that subject matter expert because you've been there, done that, and you love what you do. And you break it down. And a lot of people I know when we was getting out the military, they didn't even understand how to correlate the military resume into the civilian resume and what different jobs look for and everything like that. Can you break that down?
Yeah, I've had a lot of one of the companies I worked for. One of the owners was military. He was a Marine and a great man, very intelligent. They were having, uh, they had a driven program trying to bring military in because he struggled when he came out. and he recognizes where that is. But how do you take that military experience and translate it? And so a lot of the times, I would have a lot of people apply simply because they would see that element that was there, and I'd have to help them restructure their resumes, go into those details. How many people were you managing? I don't need to know that you were managing $80 million worth of assets. Very few opportunities that you're going to qualify for are going to have you doing that. Here, you're dealing with a lot of high grade equipment. Let's break that away from that, and let's talk about the operations. So you had 7, 8 people underneath you. They had 5 to 10 underneath them, and you kind of begin breaking that down and getting the organizations to look similar. And from there, now we start talking about your leadership skills, your leadership style. Let's start talking about how you impacted and inspired others. And that's where that military experience, which is so teamwork driven and so, if you were in combat, it's a very different element that you were in the field with. So how do you take that and bring it back and translate it? You've got to look at that inspirational time, that training, that development that you did for each of those individuals, and how you brought them up to their highest level of success. And
Right.
that's what we got to bring out in those resumes.
I love that, you know what I'm saying? And I tell people all the time, especially the guys that was on the ground with me, combat soldiers, and how to correlate that combat MOS into something when they get out, and sometimes it ain't going to correlate. And sometimes it is. Leadership goes everywhere. But they're not looking for that type of job in project management. So once I went through my trials and tribulations of bankruptcy with my own company, I got my PNP. But going and go work for these certain companies is people that's been there 10, 20, 30 years that looking at you like, where you been at? And why you get to come in and get this high paying job because you're military, you PNP, and they gave me a hard time and it messed with my PTSD. It was very toxic. So I had to say, you know what? I'm gonna keep my PNP, but I can't work at for nobody because I'm not coming in being respected because certain situations. And I get it. What's theirs is theirs. What's mine is mine. But I thought that we was told that we would get an opportunity when we get out to go compete for these certain positions, and it was very hard for me in the workforce. Very hard.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. It is a challenge translating those skills into civilian life. I've seen a lot of people struggle with that and wind up in security or police work, which
Yeah.
which translates very directly. But if you're not able to do that or don't have a desire to do it, that that will eat you up in a hurry. There's you're dealing with a lot of people's worst days in that
Right.
industry,
Right.
and but to move that into leadership is almost as hard for a pro athlete to take their skill set from like a football player. Like you
Right.
played in the NFL, you might be wearing a couple of championship rings, but it's very hard to translate that into the corporate environment without the right degree and the right education.
Right.
So, for a handful of people I've been able to work with, we've been able to get them to look at their college um, hours and just need a little bit more to get a certificate in one thing or another, in an associate's in this or an associate's in that, and be able to step in and take on a different role than they even thought they could. I've got 2 people I've worked with that are in accounting that
Mm.
never thought they would be, but honestly, their brains are math driven. And when we started talking numbers, it just spilled out of them. I'm like, why aren't you looking at accounting?
Right.
I mean, you can do simple tax work initially, and there's plenty of opportunities for that. And then you move that on over into more of a business accounting role as you can pursue it a year or two down the road. And the next thing you know, you're working a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, very simplified life. And
Right.
I've even seen them move into the insurance industry
Right.
and be able to help people, whether it's home life and auto, or it's the commercial side where you're dealing with layers of insurance for commercial businesses, commercial trucking, transportation, whatever it may be, and really help them to get those certificates and take that dedicated never ending skill set and apply it to sales and follow up and organization. And not only that, I mean, in the insurance industry, it's meticulous. And when you come out of the military, one thing you have is a meticulous attention to detail that is almost hyper.
Right. Right. And people don't understand that. They don't know that a lot of military, we operate on high octane. I'm doing multiple things multiple things at the same time, going in the same direction. Shoot, move, communicate. Basically, especially the guys that was on the ground. I was a forward observer, so I controlled the air assets, mortars.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? The airplanes, navy ships, everything. And now at the top of that, I'm running with the grunts and the scouts kicking in doors, you know what I'm saying, pulling secure, doing all these things. So, but we're not dumb. We're calculating the train sketch, the meters, distance, direction, all these things. So our mind is computing at the same high octane, and people don't think that combat soldiers are thinkers. We are very smart. A lot of my Ranger guys that got out the military, they are doctors. My boy graduates in May with his MD. So it's like we were trained to operate at that high level. Just give us something that we know how to do so we can complete the mission. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
I
I'll tell you, a lot of companies will bring in military and really work to help them find success. But you've also got to be in the paint with those guys and make sure like you're getting disrespect and it's pushing back and it doesn't need to be there. And they've got to be able to push back on that as leaders. And I'm sorry you went through that because that certainly could have been an opportunity where that leadership could have pulled someone aside in a private office and said, walk me through this challenge you're having. We made this decision as a company. This is what they bring to the table. Walk me through your problem and really talk them through that situation and got them to really have a different perspective on it. And it could have been more of a mentor than a challenge for you. You know,
right,
there's two ways to approach everything.
right.
Um,
I kind of felt like that too, but I didn't get that opportunity, and it left a sour taste in my mouth. But God had a plan for me. So once I left all that situation, and timing is everything, right? No matter what you do to try to force another situation, God is going to bring you back to that situation you're supposed to be at. So I am in no way, shape, or form. I know I'm supposed to be where I'm at right now, but it just took me to go through that and grow and understand. Like, hey, you know what? I need to activate what I'm doing. And my dad's a minister. My grandfather's a minister. So why you not coaching? Why you not speaking? Why you not telling your story? Why you not out here serving? This is how I can serve, and this is what I was able to do, and identify who I am as a person, and be happy waking up because I was irritated getting back into the workforce, going to work and having to deal with all these other personalities that they wasn't accepting me. I wasn't allowed to be who I am, and I felt like I was starting all over again. And after I done all this in the military and all this education, I felt like that it didn't even matter no more.
yeah, I can't tell you how many military personnel I've spoke to and interviewed that are kind of in that boat and they're struggling to support a family and they're probably running three different jobs.
Yeah,
And that again speaks to their experience and their ability to do that.
right.
You get them focused on a single thing, I would almost be scared of what they might do, as far as success level.
Right, right, definitely. So I want to get into some couple of stories that you've been out here and helping people with the resume and getting them pointing them in the right direction. Can you give me a particular story that stood out to you that you helped someone and it came back and years later and you could sit there and just say, you know what, I did that for that person. That person is succeeding. They took my information and they using it. Can you tell me a story about that?
Yeah, when I was and this I was actually running restaurants at the time, but I went over to IHOP and pulled a lunch server over to be because I was trying to staff my place up for lunch servers, and we were
Right.
running. I took it over. They're running four instead of 12 servers for a lunch, and they're wondering why lunch is slow. And I'm just like, give me a minute here. And I went and pulled a young lady from there, and she came over, and she struggled waiting tables from that service to full service where we were at in a steakhouse. It was full service, almost fine dining. And don't get me wrong, she was making great money, but it was really stressing her. So I pulled her back and I trained her on to go, and she just wasn't doing what she wanted to do. So I made her a host. And you want to talk about somebody that took to that like nobody I've ever seen. Before I left that particular location, she was an office administrator and just short of a manager, and couldn't have been
Wow.
happier. And what this did for her life is she was divorced with her ex-husband living on her sofa, and she needed help with the rent, help with the kids, and he was just really an unhealthy element in that environment. And I think it was unhealthy for both of them. He was using it as a crutch. She was tolerating it and not moving on with her life. I put her in a position where she went out and got a car, and she pulled me to the back door one day. So I want to show you my brand new car, and it's a 3-year-old car, but it was brand new to her, and it was her first, I guess, really her first consistent form of transportation that was dependable for her. And because I put her in this opportunity, she was finally able to be more independent, and it really changed the way she was looking at things. And a few months later, she kicked him off the sofa and out of her life. And within, I think, 6 months of that, we made her the office administrator, where she was doing our invoices and following up on some of the ordering and really teaching her a little bit more. And she was then an assistant manager on the floor, helping with swipes and dealing with, small guest touches. And she was actually able to find someone dependable in her life and start a new relationship. And when she got married a few years later, she found me on LinkedIn in a very long search. And I had managed to miss her wedding somehow, but she could not wait for us to go out to dinner and me to meet her husband. And I'd already met him, but he wasn't her husband when I met him. But she was
Right.
so proud of the fact that someone took a little bit of interest in her and a little bit of help, and just really took her from where she thought she was never going to find success, and said, "Whoa, there's a path right here. This is where we need you to go. That didn't work. Let's try this. Struggling with that. Let's try this. Let's just keep these lines of communication open and improve your life." Because
Mm,
God didn't put you in my path by accident. Um, I mean, I was looking for help, and
right.
and and I went in there for breakfast after a shift one night. And we got to meet, and then I came back for lunch another time, and then I pulled you over. And I
Right.
made it's just, where do you apply your attention to your team? How do you help them? And I feel like, that was a true testament to, you cannot manage your employees equally. They're all individuals, and they all take a little bit of time to get to know them and figure out what they need and what's going to inspire them and what's going to move them to that next level. And I
Right.
do the same thing in my recruiting. Spend some time getting to know you. Let's find out where you really want to go and what your real goals are, and then let's talk about how to get you there. Because
Right.
right now you're in a job that ain't going to get you there. You're
Right.
putting in too many hours to have time with the kids and go fishing, or go to the scout meetings, or go to their baseball games. We need a little bit more flexibility in
Mhm.
the job you're in. How can we get that?
I love the way you broke that down and you explained it, and I love the fact that you understand. Like a lot of people, we don't get that type of coaching. We don't get that type of direction, that purpose. Hey, fill out a resume, whatever it is, and people are wondering why they never get hired. And that's the story that you told, that you helped.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I like that, because I have a similar story like that with my sister, and she was struggling. Brought her here to Florida, got her a job at Circle K. She was just working at Circle K, being just the front desk. Brand new Circle K had just opened. Brought her there, got her a job. 3 years later, she is the manager of that Circle K and positioning herself to become the district manager of like 3 or 4 Circle Ks. Look at how God worked with that situation, put her in that element just for her to do something and put her back in the game. And now look, the neighborhood that the Circle K is, they love her. It's in Sarasota. They know her. They welcome her. The way she talks, the way she handles it, the way she blossomed in that position. So I was so proud of that. But before
Absolutely.
that, I got her a job working in the medical field, and they didn't treat her right, so they fired her. So her confidence was down. So I doubled back when I got back and got her a job at Circle K. And my older sister, now she's booming now. So
Yeah, that's amazing, and you're right. I mean, it's all about somebody taking a moment, treat them with respect, hold you to high standards, and help you get there.
right,
And you can't measure the amount of loyalty you can get from a team member from that. Um, I remember moving from concept to concept in the restaurant industry, and people wanting to quit, and I'm like, time out, time out. I don't get to take you. You don't get to come. Just hold what you got. You're doing well for your family. You're on track to graduate college. They're going to flex with your schedule. You're in the right place. I can't guarantee you that where I'm going. I've still got to build infrastructure. If
right.
I need you and we connect down the road, that's great. But that there's I took over a location and had a T1 trainer contact the corporate office, contact HR, and want me terminated. Have a petition put together to have me fired. 3 months later, they go to pull me out of there. That same employee contacted HR and said, "You can't take him. We won't let him go." It was quite the turnaround. And all it took was them understanding, we have standards. We're going to hold to them. I'm going to treat you with nothing but respect, but we're going to hit these standards, and we're going to take better care of our guests and better care of each other in the process. And our big conflict was, she was wanting to take a table from a like a brand new server because it was a larger table, and I'm like, nope, that table's in their section, it's theirs. Well, they can't handle it. And I said, that's my job to deal with. I'll backweight them. I'll make them successful. This is their moment to make a little bit more money tonight. This is not how this is going down. And that was the big kind of grind. Apparently, they were able to put, cut that person, I'll take that table. That's not our standard. That's not how this is going down. This is their opportunity, same as you get your opportunities.
Right.
And but once she realized that there was that even hand across the entire process, it was a very different appreciation for it. And it was quite comical when HR contacted me and said, "Hey, we got another complaint." I'm like, "What is it now?" And they're like, "They don't want you to leave." And I'm like, "Can I stay?" And they were like, "No, you can't. We need you over here fixing this." And it was pretty comical for me to meet with her and with the GM after that to explain to her where I was going and what I was going to do, and she wanted to follow. And I'm like, "There's no transfers."
Right. There's no transfers. Look at that. I
So,
love
and
that.
it was within the company, so it was one of those situations where I did reach out and borrow her as we were adapting some standards and getting their training team up to speed, and she was able to come in and meet with them and really help them understand it a little better and faster. So that was a kind of a cool experience too.
Okay, I love that. I love the fact that you did that for them and everything like that. Let's get into some of the obstacles you had to face, in this industry. And I know a lot of us, we don't, a lot of people don't like to talk about it. So let's talk about how did you, what obstacles that you had to face, and how did you get in front of it?
Well, in recruiting, your biggest obstacle is your own network, and you've got to grow it. And it takes time and mentoring. You got to work with some good mentors to get that growing, and you need to be dedicated to just a couple of industries. You can't just recruit for 9 industries. You just don't
Right.
have the capacity to develop the networks that far and wide on an executive level. Now, if I'm just chasing hourly employees for somebody, we can hunt that down for you all day long. I don't care what the industry is. We can
Right.
just get into the certifications and needs, and then we can start qualifying them and going through an interview process with them.
Right.
But when it comes to like HOA property management or the restaurant industry or insurance, these are niche industries that have you need to know, like the restaurant industry. I've got to know it inside and out to find the right directors and the right SVPs that are going to come in with some passion for your brand. And really, you've got to look at their track record. Did they come up in the industry? Did they move over from something else? What's making them successful? And that's what you've got to find. And an obstacle for me was really getting into the HOA property management industry. And I fell into that. Uh, and it really took finding somebody like Aisha Khan that took some time with me to go, look, here's where we need to build this network out. Here's where we're going to find our hourlies. Here's where we're going to find our mid-level leadership, and here's where we're going to find our senior level leadership. And I began working into those areas to build those networks, and that was some of those challenges. But again, it took a great mentor, and it took listening. I'm pretty headstrong. I feel like I can do anything.
Right.
But there are limits, and you've got to be willing to fall back, listen to the people around you. And one of her challenges is that she's younger than I am, and she's like, I don't know how you're going to take this, but I got some information you're going to need. And I'm like, with open arms, give it to me. And she wound up actually being assigned to be my supervisor once operations and the two owners saw our interaction. And then she had to come into my office one day and go, I don't know why you're doing that, but you need to stop. And this is where you need to be focused for this. And she apologized to me later, and I looked at her. I said, I made you a promise when you and I kind of got connected that if we ever have a situation where I'm going the wrong way down the road and you need to turn me around, all you have to do is put your hand on my shoulder and go, you're going the wrong direction. Do this. There's no apology required. I'm good with that. You can yell at me if you feel like you needed to. I'm not going to be upset. And
Right.
she was like, I really don't have to apologize. Not a bit. You just saved me several hours of work. I'm golden. We already solved it. We're good. And that's where you've got to be willing to listen and hear what someone's got to tell you. And they may not know quite how to communicate it, but you still got to discern what they're getting at from you. And you got to be willing to be, sometimes maybe they're not going to speak quite right because maybe they're a little bit intimidated by you, or they're not going to give you what they could
Right.
because again they might be younger than I am, so
Right.
they don't know how to respond.
And that's the key word, discern. A lot of people don't have discernment. How you know what I'm saying, how you see your employees or people that you're coaching or even people that you work with, and how you understand, people ain't going to come to work the same every single day.
Yeah,
And if
and
something
I would
happens,
go meet with leaders within the company, and I would treat their situation like an individual client, and that's how I did that recruiting. Like, what is it you need? What was wrong with the prior team member? Where did the failure occur? Was it us? Was it them? Was it a combination of, which is generally what it is? And where can we find some middle ground on this so we don't just keep hitting that same wall? Because I can hire you 20 people, but let's break the cycle here and get this right.
Right,
And
right,
I think sometimes that was a pretty good challenge, getting them to kind of take an inward look. And, I would tell them my toughest moment coming up in management and operations was when I finally realized I have to go to my people and say to them, how can I be better? And not just let them talk, but hear it, ingest it, and change what I'm doing for them.
right.
And my career took off like a rocket
Mm,
after that. But you have to reach that pinnacle moment when you're managing people, and you have to ask them, how can I be better? And there's a simple system with 4 simple questions to getting that evaluation done on a monthly basis and finding so much success with your people. What's working for you? What barriers are you seeing? What are we going to work on? What 3 things, 3 things we're going to work on between now and when we meet again in a month to help you be more successful? And then what can I do to lead you better? And
mm,
you might hear some things that are quite contrary to what you think you're doing, but their perception of it is all that matters.
mm. I love
And
that.
that's where my perception of me was awesome. Their perception of me was not so much. And so when I started adjusting, they were like, this listens. And they would come to me and go, hey, you just spoke to her? That was a little rude, bud. That's a little too direct for her. I'm like, oh,
Mm,
snap. I didn't mean to hurt her feelings. And I'd
right,
go find that employee, pull them aside and go, look, I was just pointed out that this interaction could have been better, and I want to apologize. And from then on, then I'm really paying attention to my P's and Q's when I'm addressing those team members, and like their supervisors that report to me, they're like, wow, somebody's got my back here.
right.
What does he want done? I
Let's
got
get
it.
it. Let's
We're
get
good.
it done. Yes,
And the whole
definitely.
world changed.
Right,
9 day different.
right. And you learn that. And you learn how to operate inside of that and give the people like, hey, you know what? You have to learn the people that you work with. And sometimes we don't stop and get to learn. And if you get the people to learn and y'all work together, the company will move further and it will
Yeah,
be a good environment.
yeah. And as a candidate, as the employee in that environment, you've got to have, well, maybe it isn't always safe, but you need to be working for that environment where it is safe to go, hey, when the conversation's done, can we talk in a minute? Let cooler heads prevail and sit down and go, look, you don't have to come at me that hard. You need this and this done. This is the first time you've told me about 2 of these things. One of these, that's on me. I should have been more on top of it. But if these are the things we need to put our metrics against, then let me start working and reporting my own metrics to you on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, so that when we get to the end of the month, we know week to week where we're going to stand on this. Are we going to be at 10% off target, 10% over? Where are we going to be?
Right.
And
Exactly.
all of a sudden, how they treat you is going to change too. But you've got to first bridge that communication gap and be that person that can be the architect of that environment and be strong about it.
Right. I love that. And I love the fact that you talk about that. Motivators at the table, new viewers, old viewers, followers, chat room, community. Do you understand what we were talking about right now? Do you understand what Mr. Proctor is describing to you and how to understand the people that you work with and how to activate their qualities and what they can contribute and how to find a skill set so they won't be. Some people are working in fields where that's not your field, but nobody has not told you, and they ain't putting you in a position where, hey, I think you should be a janitor. I think you'll do good at that, or I think you'll be good at, you know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to chase the money, chase your passion, chase your gift, chase the situation, And I like how you got in front of your ugly. So let me know how can the world understand who you are and where can we find you at, and leave me with a good motivational quote
Wow, good motivational quote. Let me give some thought
from
into
you.
that.
From you, yeah.
From me, I have always, one of my first real jobs, both my brothers worked for this gentleman, and I went to apply there too. And he said he wasn't sure about hiring 3 brothers. And I said, look, I won't cash a paycheck until you tell me you want me to work for you. And if you don't, I'll hand them all back to you. Well, he couldn't help but hire me at that point. That was a heck of a negotiation, right?
Right. Yeah.
About 6 months later, his wife came to me and said, why don't you cash your paychecks? I was like, Get your husband over here. We had a deal, and I'm still waiting to hear he wants me to stay. And we had a follow up to that, and he's like, go to the bank and put that stuff in right now and come back. You're messing with her bank accounts. And we had a good laugh, and I worked for them for 10 years. How can you find that much dedication in what you're willing to do for somebody? I'm not
Mhm.
saying give up your life, but when you're at work, be engaged, be the best architect you can of your environment, and be inspirational to others.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Tell us how we can find you on your social media.
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. I can share that link on here in just a minute.
Yes.
But you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to contact, get in contact with. My phone number is visible. My email is visible. When you look under the contact information, I'm somebody that you shoot me um, a connection request, you guarantee it's going to get snapped up in a hurry and agreed to. I've got a network in excess of 15,000, and it's continuing to grow. And if you need a resume review or just a quick consultation on why am I not getting callbacks on my resume, I'm happy to take a quick look at it and share with you where there's some deficiencies in that, as well as be happy to give you some documents. You can also find us at sublimepersonnel.com. Terry and I have been working together for a little over a year, and it's been a great relationship. He and I hit on some of the same elements when we start working with people. I spend a fair bit of time doing candidate advocacy work where I just simply am helping you. Instead of being an applicant to a job, I'll put you in a position where you can be presented as a candidate. And it's a very different cycle you'll be going through for them. We can work you through how to network into that company and how to find out if you truly want to be there.
I like that. So tell us one more thing about the resume and how it resonates with the world, real quick, before we
My,
leave.
my personal resume.
No, no, just how, you know what I'm saying, the people that
Oh,
you
how
help.
people's resume.
Yeah.
Your resume needs to speak not just to your skill set, but to how you operate and why you operate. And the bullet points in it, they can check a few boxes, but they can also have a few lines in there about how you've inspired team members and really tell a story that does more than check a few boxes. We can put a short paragraph at the top that talks about your leadership style. We can put a link in it to your LinkedIn profile. We can put a lot more details in there, like an Easter egg for a good recruiter to go find and go. We got several boxes checked. Let's take a look at them on social, where we can find them on social media and see who they are. And that's how we can better define and present your professional brand. I guess that's the best way to do it. Is LinkedIn is used to present your professional brand, and that's where I can help you optimize that and
Right.
set yourself up for a great deal of success.
I appreciate you and thank you for just coming on the motivators table. Motivators, this is where we go get motivated. We got to bring the special people out here, the people that are inspiring. And thank you for just coming on. And I want to take this segment real quick just to pour into you and let you know that, hey, Mr. Proctor, you're special. Thank you for everything you're doing out there for the people on the front line that's trying to get these jobs and trying to just activate their gift. And thank you for just creating an overlay of protection of how to understand their resume as a recruiter. And you're special because you get to see people's talent before they see their own talent. And I hear that in your voice that you help them spot what their purpose, truly purpose is, and what they're here on this earth to serve and what God gave them. You're not just looking over resumes, you're looking over their lives and their souls. And I appreciate you. I know they appreciate you
Thank you.
because they are making the money they're supposed to be making, and they're happy at their core. It's mental health for me, and that's why we do it at the motivators table. You check them at the door. You make sure that they understand what they're about to get into. You give them a position, understand their resume for their mental, so they can make their money, so they can feed their family, and that's what you're doing. And we appreciate that over here at the motivators table. These are real stories, real people, real personal situations. And this is a real person that came on and was able to tell you, chat, tell you, motivators, hey, let me take a look at your resume. And he's not talking about the resume on paper, your life. Let me help you articulate that situation, that verbiage, so you can get the right job that God wants for you. And we thank you, Mr. Proctor. Thank you for coming on. You're special. I'm proud of you. We love you here at the Motivators Table. Do not stop giving what you're giving. God has something special for you, and you're doing it, and you're living in your true purpose. And motivators, we can't thank this man enough. He took 45 minutes of his time to explain and give you guys these jewels. People pay for this. He dropped it for you guys. Hopefully, you picked it up. You had your highlighters, your pens. You're ready for him to jump in his LinkedIn and ask him more questions. This is what we do. Until the next time in our episode, I can't wait to see you guys soon at the Motivators table. Thank you, Los Angeles Tribune. Thank you, Riverside Platform, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for my sponsors. Kept God. Thank you for my sponsors, Pure Immune and Focus. I appreciate you. I see you later. Boom.